All right, thanks folks for your patience as we did our little tech check. Welcome, it's Sunday afternoon on the 4th of July, and I am Sela Siri, and I'm joining you from New Orleans, where the cat caught the best of me today. Yeah, welcome to the Buddhist Recovery Network Academy, and we're in luck. We have a teaching today from Vince Cullen, who is talking about cabbages and condoms, and moving through uncertainties and things that aren't exactly perfect, and how to work with that in a Buddhist way. So I think you probably know by now that we invite you during the course of the teaching to enter comments or questions into Slack, and we will get to a Q&A session at the end of the talk. The format is usually a combination of a meditation and a teaching and anything else that the teacher wants to bring into it. If you scroll your cursor to the bottom of the screen, there is a participant icon, which allows you to then click on chat, and you can see the chat field where you can enter your information into, and you can also see a raise hand icon where at the end you can come live and present a question. Since not everybody can stay for the entirety of the program, I do like to, at the beginning, just to let you know that the Buddhist Recovery Network has been growing its programs in very exciting ways this year. Just to tell you a little bit about them, we've had a podcast going for nearly 2 years now, and so we try to have at least one, possibly two podcasts that are released each month. We also have a morning sit, if you care to join us any morning. We also have a book club that's happening one Saturday of each month, and all of these opportunities. We have a summit that we're planning for the end of the year, and so all of these opportunities, including the academy, are brought to you free of charge, and a lot of volunteer effort goes into it. And so I just want to share the link to which you might be able to contribute if you have the opportunity and you feel generous. That is buddhistrecovery.org/donate. So thank you for letting me put that out there right away. I'm going to tell you a little bit about Vince Cullen. Vince Cullen is an ex-alcoholic who's been associated with the Wat Tham Krabak Monastery in Thailand and Buddhist-oriented drug and alcohol recovery since 1998. He founded and facilitated the Fifth Precept Sangha, Meditation for Awakening Sit and Share meetings in England, Scotland, Ireland, India, Nepal, Thailand, and the USA as part of his ongoing teaching of Hungry Ghost retreats. He's a charter member of the Buddhist Recovery Network. Yay! Vince has completed both the committed Dharma practitioner and advanced practitioner programs offered by Gaia House in England. He's completed the Mindfulness Teachers Development Program offered by Bodhi College in Switzerland and the UK. And he's twice taken temporary ordination in the unique Buddhist tradition practiced at Wat Tham Krabak Monastery in Thailand. He's previously been a Buddhist prison chaplain in both male and female prisons in the UK. And this has 2 websites where you can find out more about him and all of the many things that the programs that you keep going, Vince. And yeah, so very excited to welcome you back. Thank you for being here on a Sunday, and we look forward to hearing from you.
So, thank you, everyone. Thank you for being here. Thank you for joining me. Hello and welcome to lots of old friends and lots of new friends. Lovely to see you here. Marcus Aurelius, the Roman emperor and Stoic philosopher, once said that everything we hear is an opinion, not a fact, and everything we see is a perspective, not the truth. So with that in mind, my name is Vince Cullen, and today I would like to share with you some of my views and opinions about cabbages and condoms, about fish floundering around in puddles, and about getting along rather than getting ahead. Although these are only views and opinions and not necessarily truth, I hope that what follows may give you a different perspective on your life. But first, I'd like to start this evening with a 15-minute wise-heartedness bhavana, or a wise-heartedness meditation, a meditation to cultivate a wise heart. So I'm going to share my screen now. Let's make a start. So take an upright, dignified posture, a posture that represents your heart's desire to awaken. That is, your heart's noble desire to move away from stress and suffering, your heart's desire to move towards the end of stress and suffering. If it's comfortable for you, you might let your eyes gently close. For this meditation, we imagine that we're breathing in and out through our heart. Wherever it is in your chest that you imagine your heart to be, take a very deep breath in through the heart. And a long, slow breath out through the heart. And another very full, very deep breath in through the heart. And a long, slow breath out. And just keeping this sense of that breathing through the heart throughout the meditation. So you're now invited to recite one or some or all of the following aspirations, just like a silent whisper at the back of your mind. May I have stillness in the midst of chaos. May I be at ease in the midst of discomfort. May I be safe and well in the midst of uncertainty. May I live with kindness in the midst of all that is difficult. May I find joy in the midst of the ordinary and the mundane. May I have stillness in the midst of chaos. May I be at ease in the midst of discomfort. May I be safe and well in the midst of uncertainty. May I live with kindness, even in the midst of all that is difficult. May I find joy in the midst of the ordinary and the mundane. This practice is sometimes described as a meditation, but the Buddha would describe it as bhavana. And the word bhavana means to cultivate, to bring into being, to develop, to nurture, to train. So in our wise-heartedness bhavana, we're training our mind and our heart to meet that present moment experience, whatever that experience may be. As our whole practice is grounded on this wise-heartedness, then we're encouraged to smile. We're encouraged to smile inwardly in our heart, in our mind, and we're even encouraged to have a small, real or imagined smile on our face. Just like all the most beautiful Buddha statues you see around the world, we can have a real or imagined smile on our face, and we can embody it in our heart and mind. May I have stillness in the midst of chaos. May I be at ease in the midst of discomfort. May I be safe and well in the midst of uncertainty. May I live with kindness in the midst of all that is difficult. May I find joy in the midst of the ordinary and the mundane. It's not so much a matter of if, but more the case of when you notice your mind has wandered away from these phrases, then just notice that and smile. Take another deep breath in and out through the heart and return to our practice of developing wise-heartedness. As we go through each phrase, you might examine it for how it manifests itself in your life. Some phrases will have more meaning for you at this moment than other phrases. But we might remember that the only wise response to any situation is the response of the heart. May I have stillness in the midst of chaos. May I be at ease in the midst of discomfort. May I be safe and well in the midst of uncertainty. May I live with kindness, even in the midst of everything that's difficult. May I find joy. The only wise response to any situation is the response of the heart. And my session has dropped out twice since we started. So I can only bring some equanimity and maybe a smile to the situation. So thank you for your patience. I hope the meditation was okay for you. Today's talk is intended to be an exploration of life's basic necessities, cabbages and condoms, as it were, and how our craving for safety, craving for security, and craving for certainty can lead to a life filled, to a greater or lesser degree, with fear and confusion. But it doesn't have to be that way. If we change our mind, we can change our world. As some of you may be aware, I have been, and I continue to be, associated with Wat Tam Trabok Buddhist temple in Thailand, the famous or even infamous monastery nicknamed the Vomiting Temple, that has been offering free herbal detox programs to Thais and to foreigners alike since the late 1950s. I first visited Wat Tam Trabok back in 1998 and was fortunate enough to meet the first abbot of the monastery, a monk named Long Por Chamroon Pan Chand. He was an ex-policeman who left the drug squad in 1953, and he became a wandering monk for 5 years, walking all over the west and north and northeast of Thailand and even into Cambodia, before establishing the Wat Tam Trabok monastery in central Thailand, in Saraburi province, in response to Thailand's chronic opium epidemic that was sparked in 1957 when the government made changes to the law there. Sadly, a few months after I met Longpo Chamroon, he passed away in 1999. I continued to visit the monastery on a number of occasions, including accompanying several addicts from the UK for detox treatment there. I don't escort addicts anymore, but I still like to visit the temple at least once a year. But due to the COVID pandemic, I didn't get to visit last year, and nor is it likely that I'm going to get to visit this year. But that's just how things are right now. And by applying a little bit of equanimity, I'm not going to suffer for my preferences. When the next opportunity arises, and it's safe to do so, I'm sure that I'll be back at Wat Tam Trabok. I'll be catching up with the monks and nuns that I've known for more than 20 years, and maybe sharing some Dharma and some recovery advice with the non-Thai addicts, the non-Thai detoxees. Whenever I'm at the monastery, I always take the opportunity to actually take the herbal emetic vomiting remedy, and to visit the herbal steam baths where the monks, nuns, and lay people spend many afternoons just sipping herbal tea and popping in and out of the herbal steam sauna. The herbal tea is actually a byproduct from when the monks brew the emetic medicine, but the tea is not as unpleasant to taste, and nor does it make you vomit. I'm a creature of habit, and in between enjoying the herbal steam baths and before taking the emetic potion, I take the opportunity to join the monks and nuns at evening chanting. And just as an aside, there are a total of 72 chants that were composed by Longpo Yai, the female monk who actually founded the monastery, along with her two nephews, the brothers Chamroon and Charon, who were both to become abbots of the monastery in turn. These 72 chants are, just like everything else about Wat Tam Trabok, quite unique and not to be found anywhere else in Thailand, let alone the rest of the world. Having previously taken temporary ordination a couple of times now at the temple, I have my own chanting book, which is not normally the case for lay people. Anyway, chanting takes place in a building known as the Magsaysay Sala, or the Magsaysay Hall, which was built with the prize money that the first abbot, Longpo Chamroon.
Are you with us, Vince?
I'm back again, yeah.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, because I've got my tablet running as well, so I saw that the connection was lost there. So I think I know where I am in the talk. So my apologies. It's unforeseen, and I thank you for being patient, and thank you for your forbearance. So we'll continue, hopefully, from whence I left off. Thank you. So, as I said, the chanting takes place in a building known as the Magsaysay Sala, or the Magsaysay Hall, and that was built with the prize money that the first abbot, Longpo Chowru, was awarded when he won the Ramon Magsaysay Award for the monastery's contribution to universal healthcare, in that they were providing a drug detoxification and rehabilitation program that was and still is freely available to all. The Magsaysay Award is Asia's equivalent of the Nobel Prize. The award is named after the famous Philippines President Ramon Magsaysay and is known formally as the Ramon Magsaysay Award. Now, this is perhaps a very loose link to a wonderful man known very affectionately in Thailand as Mr. Condom, a very enterprising and socially engaging man named Michai Rirawacha, who in 1994, after 20 years of public service, was also awarded the Ramon Magsaysay Award for his many contributions to social development and the improvement of people's quality of life. Michai was specifically recognised for his projects that focused on inclusive education, for the creation of non-governmental social enterprises, and rural livelihood initiative known as the Population and Community Development Association, or simply and much easier as the PDA. He was awarded the Magsaysay Award for his work on social justice and peace building, and for his contribution, lastly for his contribution to universal healthcare that focused on sex education and family planning, and for leading Thailand's efforts in the battle against HIV/AIDS. His efforts are said to have prevented more than 7 million unnecessary deaths. The World Health Organization estimates between 7 and 8 million unnecessary deaths were prevented by Michai's work. Michai even has an entry in modern Thai dictionaries, as condoms in Thailand are now colloquially known as Michais. In 1974, Michai had been creating and running a very innovative family planning and poverty reduction program throughout Southeast Asia. And when Michai and a band of volunteers first started distributing condoms to encouraging family planning, he said that you can go to any shop around Thailand and you'll always find Cabbages. Condoms, he said, should be just like Cabbages, which are ubiquitous and accessible to everyone. Later, to raise funds and to promote family planning and HIV/AIDS awareness, Michai opened a small vegetable stand on the PDA office premises, where vegetables, along with lace panties and T-shirts and keychains and condoms and oral contraceptives were all sold to local residents. Michai called the shop Cabbages and Condoms, a catchy, unconventional name that never failed to elicit chuckles from passers-by and draw the curious into the shop. But this talk isn't an advert for Cabbages and Condoms. However, it is now a chain of respected restaurants across Thailand, and there are even a couple of branches in the UK. The restaurant's motto is, "Our food is guaranteed not to make you pregnant." All the profits from Cabbages and Condoms restaurants in Thailand support the PDA's work and its ongoing program of primary health, education, HIV/AIDS care, rural development, the environment and water conservation, and
you're back.
Thank you. My apologies and my thanks for your patience. It's very frustrating all round. But you can see and hear me again now, Silasuri, yeah?
We can, yes.
Thank you. And apologies in advance for whoever's going to do the editing on this recording. So back to my notes, and Okay. So the name Cabbages and Condoms and the assertion by Meachai that condoms should not be seen as taboo but as a necessity got me thinking about life's basic drives, life's basic necessities, life's basic imperatives. In short, about food and sex. And these two primary drives generically define what it is to be human, or any living being for that matter. The imperative to sustain life and to produce offspring. Well, that requires food and sex at the very least. More crucially, our basic human drive above all others is survival at any cost. And from an evolutionary perspective, we seek places of safety and places of security. We seek certainty. We don't like unexpected surprises. It's worth looking at our own actions from this perspective, then seeing how this unconscious imperative drives other people's views and opinions and their words and actions. With the idea of our craving for safety and certainty, I've been intrigued recently by the Buddha's 4 summaries, of which I'm surprised don't get more attention. The 4 summaries go something like this. Excuse me. My world is unstable and can be swept away at any moment, which is very similar to my Zoom connection, isn't it? My world is unstable and can be swept away at any moment. My world has no shelter and no protector, no saviour. My world has no owner, and I must leave everything behind and die. My world is lacking, wanting, insatiable, leaving me a slave of craving. I love that phrase. In Pali, it's Tanadaso, the slave of craving. Lisa Feldman Barrett, distinguished professor of psychology at Northeastern University, has written 2 wonderful books.
Right. Vince, sorry to interrupt you, but could you mute for a second?
Yeah.
Sorry, yeah, it's just an echo. It's very garbled. The sound is just very, very staticky. I'm not able to understand what you're saying right now. I apologize. I'm not sure how to support you best. Is it possible to call into Zoom line on your phone?
Every time I get disconnected, Zoom resets all the audio and video settings. So is this microphone any better now?
Yes.
Yes.
It is, yeah? Yeah.
Yes.
So my apologies, every time it disconnects, it resets everything to the other camera and the other microphone. And so I have to remember to reset it to this one. Is this okay for now then?
It is.
Do I need to go back very far on my?
Maybe a few sentences. Yeah, and then also if I flag you again, I'll try to do it with my thumb next time. I'll just do like a thumb down if the sound breaks up. And you know, sometimes the bandwidth works better if you turn your video off. And this is we're trying to record you, but we're having some.
I'm very happy to turn my video off. So we'll give that a try. We'll leave it on the external microphone. Thanks for your patience. So we'll give it a try. Carry on. Okay. I'm going to stop my video. I'm assuming you can hear me. Yeah. Okay. It just dropped out again and reset the microphone and everything. So. Okay, let's crack on. Right, so I will just backtrack to the Buddha's 4 summaries of the Dharma because I find these 4 statements incredible. My world is unstable and can be swept away at any moment. My world has no shelter and no protector and no saviour. My world has no owner. I must leave everything behind.
My world is lacking, wanting, insatiable, leaving me the slave of craving. Lisa Feldman Barrett, the Distinguished Professor of Psychology at Northeastern University, has written 2 wonderful books that I highly recommend. The first is called How Emotions Are Made, The Secret Life of the Brain, and the other is 7.5 Lessons About the Brain. Both books offer insights into why much of our lives are simply not personal, but the construction of the brain to fulfill the imperative to survive and to reproduce. Cabbages and Condoms. To paraphrase some of the current insights of psychology and neuroscience, the brain is not a thinking machine. It is a prediction machine whose primary purpose is to keep us alive, well and fit for reproduction, to pass on our genes to the next generation. The brain predicts the body's need for and the use of water, salt and glucose, etc., whether we should act or not, whether we should use biological resources or save them, whether we should run away, stand and fight, or just freeze. We crave safety. The brain wants to avoid surprises, almost literally to predict the future, to anticipate what might happen next. And this causes us to crave certainty, and causes a great deal of anxiety as well. From the perspective of survival at any cost, the brain's predictions beat physical reactions. We are actually conditioned to fear. The brain's predictions, conditioned or constructed from past experience, repeat what works for us and what doesn't work. And even single cell organisms do this. In short, the brain's primary purpose is not to think, but to keep us alive at any cost, mostly without us being aware of that imperative. Our evolutionary and cultural heritage leads to the development of different types of minds. There are cultures that value getting ahead, prioritizing the individual over the group, and there are cultures that value getting along, prioritizing the group over the individual. And that's an interesting conclusions to come through from the perspective of neuroscience and modern psychology. There's a set of verses called the Atthakavagga verses, or the Chapter of Eights, in the ancient Buddhist Pali Canon, regarded as one of the earliest texts in that particular collection. And in one particular poem, the Buddha describes his reason for becoming homeless, and this is a reason I find far more palatable to accept than some of the more fairy tale type stories. But he describes why he became homeless in order to search for an end to suffering. And I find these words that are attributed to the Buddha absolutely striking, and particularly these first 5 verses, which I will paraphrase as follows. Fear is born assuming forcefulness. See how the people fight. I'll tell you how I'm deeply moved, how I have felt so stirred, how I experienced terror. Seeing people floundering like fish in small puddles, competing with one another, as I saw this, fear came onto me. The world was entirely without substance. All the directions were knocked out of me. Wanting a haven for myself, I saw nothing that wasn't laid claim to. Seeing nothing in the end but competition, I felt discontent. And then I saw an arrow here, so very hard to see, embedded in the heart. Overcome by this arrow, you run in all directions, but simply on pulling it out, you don't run, you don't sink. The following verses are marked for recitation by the monks. So this is obviously a very important poem that the Buddha has given us. But looking at these words and looking at the Dharma and looking at this teaching, increasingly I see the core, fundamental, underlying principle of traditional Buddhist practice, particularly through the practice of sati or mindfulness, is to get along, and very specifically, not to get ahead. Getting ahead is always at the expense of someone or something else. Some personal, social and cultural mindsets are inclined towards getting ahead, in direct opposition to getting along. Recent examples might be nations like Britain versus the EU. And then there are religious conflicts and political parties. Some parties prefer the individual, some parties put the group first. And then there's, of course, our support of teams wanting to win, not to lose. And grasping clean to the view, attitude and behaviour of getting ahead as a source of safety, refuge, certainty, solace and redemption, this always leads to conflict, both within the individual and within the wider community. The only real refuge is in the uncertainty of life or the certainty of death. The search for safety, security and certainty is a waste of time. In Gotham's own words in his 4 summaries. Am I back again?
You are, yes.
I think I'm nearly there. I think I'll just go back over the last paragraph to make sure it overlaps neatly. The search for safety and security and certainty is a waste of time. You know, the Buddha's 4 summaries explain this quite clearly, and his view of the fish floundering around with competition in a puddle says it all. But he realised we don't have to live in fear, and we can change our subconscious habitual reactive inclinations, particularly through practicing the Brahma Viharas, through practicing friendliness in the form of loving kindness, through practicing compassion, through practicing joy, through practicing equanimity. All of these qualities intended to break down the barrier between self and others. When we make uncertainty our home, not in the sense of uncertainty as fear, but transforming uncertainty into possibilities and potentiality for a fuller experience of life. The finest of mindfulness is said to be universal friendliness to all beings, big and small, near and far. So that includes people that we find pleasant to look at, people that we find unpleasant to look at, people that live with us, people that live at a distance, foreigners. So beautiful people, scary people. So mindfulness has a moral, ethical inclination, as in the universal precepts, which are designed for the good of the individual and for the good of in giving up the getting ahead mind for safety and survival at any cost. It's not the end of our world, but it's actually the end of fear and conflict. Peter Harvey translates the word Dharma as the basic pattern of things. So perhaps when we see the truth of the Dharma, perhaps when we see the truth of the Dharma, either through modern psychology, neuroscience, or through ancient Dharma of the Buddha, we might evolve to the point where we don't need to live in a puddle anymore, and we don't need to fight for survival. We can all flourish fearlessly. Thank you for your patience. Thank you. Sila Siri.
Thank you, Vince. I am, my heart goes out to you. I know how stressful that can be when your connection isn't strong. I'm certainly not good at recovering from that. So well done for, thank you for continuing to come back and complete the talk. We had a couple of questions come in while you were talking. One is, the first question was, were you talking about some sort of psychedelic that was in medic medicine and not a psychoactive drug? And I'm not sure about the context of this question, but perhaps it was when you were talking about the program in Thailand.
Okay, obviously with reference to the monastery's herbal remedy, its herbal treatment of drug addicts and alcoholics, and it's It's a secret potion of 109 different ingredients, and it's just emetic. It's intended to cleanse the system by purging. So it's not psychoactive in any way. Although there has been rumours of opium drops in it, they wouldn't be allowed to dispense it. So no, it's not. It's only intended to induce vomiting to cleanse the body.
Thank you, Vince. And since your sound is breaking up a little bit, but I think that we can continue on. We have a question to list the books that you recommended, and we could even put those into the chat here, or I can type them into the chat if you want to name them again. Either way. And then we have another question. There we go. So I'll actually read this. Lisa Feldman Barrett, the Distinguished Professor of Psychology at Northeastern University, has written 2 wonderful books that I can highly recommend. First is called How Emotions Are Made, The Secret Life of the Brain, and the other is 7.5 Lessons About the Brain. Great, thank you so much. And then there's another question. In spreading the use of condoms, is there also an explicit acceptance of LGBTQ QIA people in the Buddhist communities?
I can't answer that question because there are so many diverse traditions and communities, both secular and non-secular across the world. I can't answer that. I can only answer from my own perspective, and you know, everyone's included in my life, in my practice.
Well said. Thank you.
And certainly within the very small 5th precept sangha, very small, recovery sangha. I wouldn't even call the 5th precept sangha recovery sangha. Just people who want to live in harmony with the 5 precepts for whatever reason.
Beautiful. Yeah. I feel great inclusivity when I hear you speak. Just always showing up the way that we are feels totally possible. Thank you. Does anyone else have any other comments? I know it was a little challenging but we'll have one more question. Where would you recommend studying more about the 4 summaries? It's hard to find info on them from just a cursory search.
Who's that from? Wendy. Wendy, I agree with you. Since stumbling across them, they're in Majjhima Nikaya, number.
Sorry, Vince, we lost you. The Majjhima Nikaya 82. And thank you, John. It's wonderful. Well, while we're waiting for Vince to come out, it's kind of time. And so I just really want to thank you, Vince. If you can hear me, I think you probably can, but you've been such a friend to the Buddhist Recovery Network, and I appreciate that you do all of this work from a place in Ireland that perhaps I have very challenged internet service, but yes, I am here in New Orleans, and let me tell you, it's pretty lousy sometimes. So for you to continue to teach and engage with people around the world with sometimes challenging conditions, trying to meet in this virtual world. I just give you so much love for it and so much gratitude. And if anyone else is feeling generous today and would like to support Vince and his efforts, you're a brilliant teacher. I would let you know that part of the Dana that we accept at the Buddhist Recovery Network does go to the teachers that join us here from month to month. So once again, that's BuddhistRecovery.org/donate. And anytime, and you can indicate when you donate that it's for the Academy as well. So I wanted to tell you a little bit about something that's events on his website, which is hungryghostretreats.org. You can find out more about the retreats and the events that you have. And coming up, Vince will be offering a Heart of Forgiveness program, which is 6 2-hour interactive workshops limited to 15 participants per program. There are not details yet on the website, but there will be soon. And so I'm just going to name that website again, hungryghostretreats.org. And if you go check it out, you can be one of the first people to know about these workshops when they open up. And I encourage everybody to check one out. So yeah, I don't know if you heard all of my thank you, Vince, but just feeling a lot of generosity for you. And we love having you here. So next month, on the first weekend in August, which is August 1st, Kevin Griffin will be joining us. And he is also another alumni of the Buddhist Recovery Network, one of the original starters of the program. So just sending you all a lot of metta and wishes for well-being in the coming week. And it's really beautiful to have you here and be in the community. And I needed this. So thank you.